The knock at my bedroom door wasn't soft or gentle. It was loud, deliberate, and angry. I was already awake, sitting on the edge of the mattress, holding my 6-year-old daughter Willow close to my chest, her tiny arms wrapped around my waist. She'd been coughing for an hour, the kind of dry, wheezing sound that told me she needed warmth, sleep, and medicine. But I had none of those. Not here. I opened the door slowly. My dad stood there, shirtless, belly hanging out, a half-empty bottle of beer in one hand and the other gripping the frame like it might crumble under the weight of his rage. "You know what time it is?" he spat. "I do," I said, voice low, "but Willow's sick. I was just trying to—" "I don't care if she's on her deathbed," he barked. "You're in my house, and my house doesn't shelter leeches. If you want heat, pay rent. If you want medicine, get a damn job." Behind him, my mom leaned against the wall with her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. But I saw it, just behind her silence, a flicker of cold satisfaction. "Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video?" "Mom, please," I whispered. "She's just a little girl. Just let her stay warm for tonight. I'll take her to the clinic in the morning." That's when she said it. "Trash sleeps outside." I thought I misheard. I blinked. "What?" "You heard me," she said, voice hard. "You're the one who chose to open your legs and have a baby at 19. You're the one who thought you knew better than your family. Now live with it." She took a slow sip from her wine glass and stared me down like I was something on the bottom of her shoe. I turned back into the room and grabbed Willow's coat. Her face was pale, flushed from fever, and her eyes looked too big for her little face. "Are we going on a trip again?" she asked softly. I choked down the sob clawing at my throat. "Yeah, baby. Just for a little while." By the time we reached the bottom of the stairs, my sister Ava was standing at the top, arms folded, hair perfectly curled from whatever party she'd just come home from. She smirked and said, "Finally, I thought they'd never throw you out. Thought maybe they were getting soft." She laughed. Actually laughed. Willow looked up at her, confused. "Aunt Ava, are you happy?" Ava grinned wider. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm thrilled. Mommy's finally learning where she belongs." I opened the door and the wave of cold hit us like a slap. "Don't slam it," my mom called as we left. "We don't want to wake the neighbors with your drama." I closed it gently. Outside, it was 42 degrees and dropping. The street was silent, streetlights buzzing like dying bugs. I wrapped Willow tighter in the blanket I'd snuck out with and kept walking. There was nowhere to go, no friend who hadn't already distanced themselves from the girl who ruined her future, no extended family who hadn't made their opinions clear. My phone had 7% battery. I sat down on the edge of a closed gas station's curb and held Willow while she drifted into a shallow, fevered sleep. I stared up at the moon. They threw me out like garbage. "And Ava?" Ava laughed. "She always got everything, her own apartment, a car. Dad paid for her degree. Mom helped her furnish her place like she was royalty. When I asked for a $20 copay for Willow's checkup, I got a lecture on personal responsibility." That night, as I sat under a broken street lamp with my sick daughter clinging to me, I made a decision. I was done begging. I was done asking. They called me trash. I'd show them what it looked like when trash turned to fire. And next time the lights went out, it wouldn't be on me. It would be on them. And this time, nobody would be home to turn them back on. I didn't sleep that night. Willow did, eventually, her feverish little body finally curling into mine under that thin blanket, as the wind hissed through the cracks of the bus shelter we found an hour after being kicked out. But I sat upright, teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached, phone cradled in my frozen hand. 6% battery. I turned it off. No one was coming, and I didn't want their pity calls anyway. By morning, Willow was still burning up. Her cheeks were pink, lips cracked. I used my last $5 to buy a bottle of off-brand children's fever medicine from a corner store and begged the clerk for a cup of water. I gave her the dose, wiped her face, and whispered, "I'm gonna fix this, I swear." I meant it. That day, I went into full survival mode. We found a temporary shelter that let us stay a few nights. The social worker there asked too many questions, so I smiled, told them we were just in between housing, and promised I'd find work soon. And I did. At a diner on the edge of town, the kind of place that only hired if you walked in looking desperate and promised to work weekends. I scrubbed tables, restocked syrup bottles, and cleaned toilets during the graveyard shift. Willow stayed with a kind woman from the shelter during my hours. I didn't rest. I didn't cry. I planned. Every shift, every dollar saved, every quiet conversation I heard from people with money, power, or shady connections. I listened. I learned. And 2 months later, I got a second job, receptionist at a small HVAC company. You read that right, heating and cooling systems. The kind of place that installed smart thermostats, electric locks, surveillance, energy usage logs, and more importantly, remote systems. I made sure to be helpful, friendly, eager. Within a month, the owner trusted me with appointments, customer records, and even passcodes. When I saw my parents' names come up in the system, of course they used this company, I smiled for the first time in weeks. They had the full smart home package installed just weeks earlier. Ava's name was listed as a backup user. Of course! I copied everything. I knew their schedules. Dad was always home around 6:30 p.m., beer in hand by 6:35. Mom took her wine out to the patio by 8. Ava came home late, spent hours in her room blasting music, and never locked the windows. I waited 2 more weeks, played it safe. Then, on the hottest weekend in July, a record-breaking heat wave in our region, I made my move. Friday afternoon, I remotely triggered a system glitch. Their AC shut off. I watched as calls came in, complaints filed. System is cycling too high, house feels like a furnace. I answered the call from my end. Hi. Yes, I see the issue. We're sending someone on Monday. Monday. 3 days of 100+ temperatures with no cooling, but I wasn't finished. Saturday night, I set the electric blinds to lock closed. Then I reduced their thermostat to heating mode and locked the override. Inside, the temperature rose to 94, then 97, then 101. I knew what I was doing. The system had a safety shutoff just before 106, but it wouldn't come to that. Because the next morning I showed up. Not as a daughter, as the technician. I rang the bell in my branded polo shirt and clipboard. Mom opened the door, her hair slicked with sweat, shirt clinging to her chest. You? She blinked. Hi, I said sweetly. Here to fix the furnace issue. I hear it's been unbearable. Dad stumbled into the frame, red-faced and furious. It's a damn oven in here. Your stupid company screwed us. Oh no, I gasped. That sounds awful. Must be, what's the word? I tilted my head. Trashy? They froze. I pushed my way inside. The air smelled like melted plastic and sour wine. I walked over to the smart panel. Oh, seems the override was tripped. Who would have done that? Mom's eyes narrowed. You little... Careful, I said, tapping the screen. We wouldn't want the power to go out too, would we? Might take days to get someone out. You know how backlogged we are during summer. They stared at me. Willow was standing in the doorway. I'd brought her with me this time. Ava came stumbling down the stairs, makeup running, hair a mess. She blinked. You? What the hell are you doing here? I smiled wider. I just wanted to return the favor. Ava scoffed. Well, what are you even talking about? You laughed when we were thrown out. Remember that? She didn't answer. I do. Willow does too. And guess what? I've got the admin codes now. Every beep, every flicker. Every night you wake up sweating. It'll be me. I tapped my badge on the thermostat. And by the way, your security cameras? I looped the footage. You can scream all you want, but no one's watching. Dad lunged toward me. I raised the clipboard and smiled. This? This is just a visit. Next time I'll be pressing charges. Want to know how many labor laws you violated kicking out a minor with a fever into the cold? He froze. Didn't think about that, did you? I turned toward the door, took Willow's hand, and paused just before stepping out. Oh, And Mom? She turned slowly. Next time you see a photo album missing someone's face, don't bother calling me. That page burned. It took them 2 more weeks to realize I was serious. At first, they thought I was bluffing, thought the broken system was just a coincidence, thought I'd flinch like I always had. But then, the coincidences kept piling up. Ava's music system would randomly start playing static at 3 a.m. The hot water in the master bathroom would suddenly run ice-cold mid-shower. Lights would flicker at the exact moment Mom would open her wine cabinet. Sometimes the entire house would lock itself for 10 minutes straight while the air conditioning stayed disabled and the thermostat silently rose. It didn't take long before Mom called me. Not crying, not yelling. Begging. "You made your point," she rasped. "Turn it off." "Oh, I thought you liked the heat," I said sweetly. "Didn't you say I needed to sweat out my attitude?" "It's dangerous," she snapped. "We could die in here." "You didn't seem to mind when it was me and Willow in the heat with nothing but the clothes on our backs." There was silence. "Please," she whispered. "I was wrong." "No," I said, my voice sharp now. "You were honest. That was the worst part. That's how you really felt." I hung up. I didn't hear from them again for a while. But word spread. I wasn't quiet anymore. People who used to call me the dramatic daughter, the emotional one, started learning what happened that night because I started talking at church, at work, at community events. The real story. The truth. Turns out, people remember how you treat a child with a fever and a mother with no place to go. Turns out, people don't like monsters in neighbors' clothing. Eventually, their precious reputation began to melt down just like their air conditioning. The Homeowners Association started to question them. Church ladies stopped waving. Ava's job quietly removed her from the family-friendly ad campaign she was modeling for. That's when the real revenge started. I didn't destroy them. I just let them live inside the rot they created. I kept the admin access to their home systems, but I never touched it again after that. I didn't need to. Every gust of hot air they felt reminded them of me. Every flickering light, every locked door, it wasn't me doing it. It was their guilt, their fear, their own shadows turning against them. As for me, I used my diner savings and my new office job income to get Willow and me a little apartment near a park. She's doing better now, still has nightmares sometimes, but she's getting stronger. And one day, while we were coloring on the balcony, she looked up and said, "Mommy, our new house has light." It took me a second to understand what she meant. Oh, then I cried harder than I ever had in my life. Not because I was sad, but because I was finally free. We still get letters from them sometimes. Mom sends birthday cards with $5 bills inside and stiff apologies written like business emails. Dad once left a voicemail, slurred and pathetic, asking if I remembered the good times. Ava tried to add me on social media last month. I didn't respond. I printed one of the photos of Willow and me in our sunlit kitchen, taped it inside the old photo album they once left blank of me, and dropped it on their porch. No note, no name. Just a face they could never erase again. And no matter how hot it got in that house, they'd never sweat me out. Not anymore. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.